the whole aim of this workshop is that coming out of today, which is the last day, guidelines will be set up by the AAEA, and then these guidelines will then be taken to the General Assembly of the AU, of which we're actually currently situated, and possibly adopted so that, all these electoral bodies across the African continent could actually adopt them as guidelines. And this is as they prepare for their various elections. You would know, for those who don't know, perhaps, Elgin, is that it's not only a critical year for South Africans next year as they head to the polls, but 19 other countries on the African continent will also be heading to the polls. And hopefully the aim and the hope is that by the time these countries actually go to these elections, these other guidelines are actually adopted. We've heard various stakeholders today giving further inputs, and I'm actually joined by a very interesting guest, very young. She's a parliamentarian in Tanzania, and her name is Neema Lugangira. Neema, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News.
Thank you so much for having me.
You made very meaningful inputs here. You raised the whole issue of, females in politics, not only females in politics, but a journalist as well in politics, and how you face abuse, at the hands of social media and some of these users. Just tell us about your personal experiences, how it has been.
First of all, I would like to really commend the Association of African Election Authorities, as well as the South African Election Body, for coming up with this intervention, because it's a very timely one. As we all know, in today's world, democracy and digital are intertwined. You cannot separate digital from democracy. And with that, it has created lots of good opportunities, but also bad opportunities, in the sense that the online space has been ungoverned for so long. So people have been free to behave in manners in which offline they would not behave. Now, over time, that has created a huge issue, particularly also for politicians and women politicians specifically. Why am I saying this? Because you find a female parliamentarian, you may go online, share about your work, and then people will jump on you and not focus on the issue that you've raised, but they end up sexualizing you, analyzing how you're looking, how you're dressing, and making assumptions on how you even got to your parliamentary
And they actually don't criticize the work, they actually attack you personally.
So the issue that I, for one, am very grateful to being a member of parliament and to have gotten this invitation as the chairperson of the African Parliamentary Network on Internet Governance, which is bringing together members of parliament from different African states to see what can we do in this digital development as parliamentarians. Now, you spoke about the critique. The issue is, criticize me, criticize my colleagues on the agenda. But when you shift from the agenda to gender, that is no longer criticism. Now, unfortunately, on the social media space, on the platforms, that difference is not clear. So everybody hides behind the blankets of freedom of expression, that I'm expressing my freedom. But we are saying there's an end to freedom of expression. You should not use your freedom of expression to make me not use my freedom of expression. And the impact of this is in two folds. Number one, it's making women parliamentarians self-censor. I'm sure you can check in South Africa how many women parliamentarians are online. You'll find that the number is bare minimum. And the majority, why should they be online and put themselves through abuse and all kinds of maltreatment just because they're women? So what we're trying to say, that with these guidelines, it is crucial for the issue of women in politics to be clearly outlined in the guidelines, and also the social media platforms to have a responsibility and accountability. And through that process, we can create digital resilience for women parliamentarians